Kapubailo Debedim, Kapumigi Batainga, Kapubatainga, Deputy Mayor, SARG members, CEO, Executive Staff, welcome to our July SARG meeting. Before we start, we'd like to give you a kime so I'll got kind of gasama, my la kudwi bika apapubi, kawa gimui, kuikuma baigal, kaima baigal. Tena kai patakulai, kai baiga, saying afabanga, mura, tena kes, kuikuma baigal, and programa baigal. I'd like to acknowledge and thank our Heavenly Father for His awesome wisdom, knowledge, and understanding upon our lives, our families, upon our region and the council and the service it does to our communities. I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of our council all traditional owners, elders, leaders past, present and emerging. I'd like to acknowledge on behalf of our council those members of our communities, whether on homeland or on mainland, that are in sorry business at this time. Our collective thoughts and prayers are with them all. Before we proceed with our Strategic Action Reference Group SARG meeting today, I'd like us to begin by a opening prayer followed by a minute silence for those who we have lost since our last engagement. If I can welcome Deputy Mayor Councillor Wasmuchi Mudion as a welcoming prayer. Thank you.
Yes, so bow heads and pray. Holy Father, mighty God, Lord, we thank you for this time that you have set apart. Father, we commit our men, our councillors, CEO, executive staff, Lord, go by them for you, that you may bless us, Holy Spirit. We welcome you for this meeting. We pray, Lord, for your wisdom, your understanding, and knowledge. Lord, we commit the agenda, go by them for you, Lord, that you will bless it. Lord, I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. We can observe a minute silence, please. Your souls rest in peace. Thank you and welcome. I also would like to extend a welcome to the members of the public that are joining us through Council's YouTube channel, and those that are joining now and will later on preview today's proceeding. We haven't received no formal apologies. I trust that SARG members have had ample time to look at the agenda for today's proceedings. I haven't received no declarations in writing of any conflict of interest. I do want to inform us that this meeting is being live streamed on Council's YouTube channel. We'll move on to agenda item 1, the confirmation of meeting minutes for the 9th of May 2025. Are there any right to minutes? Are there any amendments, questions, or comments in relation to the confirmation of minutes for 9th of May 2025? Thank you. I'll table the meeting minutes for the 9th of May and call for a mover and a seconder to accept it as true and exit report. Moved by Councillor Aniba, second. Councillor Stephen. All councillors in favour? Any councillors against? Motion carried. The meeting minutes for the 9th of May is accepted as true. We're now moving to the next agenda item, which is the strategic reference group action items, and I'll hand over to CEO. Welcome, and Kapabayo.
Yes, Mayor. So, Mayor, councillors, staff, members of the public, Mayor, I'll just walk through very quickly some of these action items. The first one, this action item came out of the May 2025 Council Workshop, and the action there was that the CEO to provide a report to SARG about potential for MOU between TSIRC and TSIRC to provide for collaboration of advisory committees with aligned portfolio and projects. As council is already aware, we do have an MOU with TSIRC and TSIRC, so that's the, I suppose, the overarching relationship. But from a practical, mechanic point of view, I think that we need to probably, and I haven't, as in there hasn't been a report being prepared as yet, but there's an exploration around possible discussions where we can talk to the board level as well as the organisation, and I am engaging the CEO to see how we can actually do that, because it's more about aligning those committees on how they can work together, and what sort of forum. That hasn't been raised yet. I will be raising that today. I have a meeting with the CEO today, so it's been a pretty busy sort of period. But that's one of the items that I'm raising with him, just to see what that's a possibility. So if whatever we say there, then we can actually then socialise how that may work between them. And if it is a possible, if there's a possibility, then I'll report back to council. So that stays open as an action. But that's one of the things that I'll be raising today with the CEO.
Thank you.
The next action item, this one again came out of the May 2025 Council Workshop, and again this one is in relation to the CEO to provide update to SARG how advisory committees can work with counterparts from Torres Strait and NParks. Similar kind of thing again. At this stage, Mayor, again, no further action other than the fact that, as you know, we're on that journey to set up the ROC, and so there's already alignment there. The question is how the level of maturity in the other two councils, because I think TSIRC has got its committee system working well. It's got all these other elements, I think, well structured. With what we don't have is on the other side is they haven't got a CEO in some of those organisations, but acting capacity and things like that. Bit of a transition. I suspect that in the next couple of months we can progress that, so that stays open as an action item as well. So if there's any questions, councillors, please raise it. More than happy to discuss further, but as I said, it's just more a question of timing, and again, that's on an agenda to progress. The next action item, this came out in May 2025 meeting, and this is in relation to the advocacy strategy to state and the Australian governments. The CEO to prepare an advocacy strategy to state and federal government to address the priorities identified by council. Again, councillors, this is still in progress, but as we are aware, we've done substantial work. We've done the strategic the investment plan, we've got the advocacy documents together, so all of those things are there. We are in the process of finalising the valuation, and as I mentioned in other forums, that's a very big story for us, and also actively working with LGAQ to come up with a bit of a plan. And I've also had discussion with the mayor, so the mayor's aware. The next couple of months between now and December, obviously. So in short, I think we can have a plan probably in the next month or so. That's defined once we've done everything else. And so one of the issues that we've got at the moment is the possible adjustment to your SIP, and that may also reflect on your numbers on your advocacy, because the shift in the numbers are significant. It's about 30%. And so we don't want to go talk to them if we haven't got the latest number. And that's the problem. And because of the level of complexity, and Holly may talk to that later, with that particular, the level of shift in that area, in that space, it means that we've had to go extra cautious. So to give some context, whatever numbers that even our valuer comes up with and doing the assessment of all the real live data that we carry, it has to be harmonized even with the QAO and everybody else. So all our external regulators and everybody else has to agree and accept that what we're telling them or what our valuer is telling them or anyone is actually accurate. And when you see a big shift in what we're experiencing in TSIRC, then even the regulators ask the question, how come, why is this the case? So we just need to make sure that we get those foundations right, sort that out, and once it's all resolved, then I think we've got a really good position to then move with everything else, because then that will wash through the other documents. As I previously mentioned, the SIP as well as the advocacy document, what else, Holly? I'm just talking about our artifacts. We wash those numbers in and it'll be annual. It means that you'll have live documents all the time, which means that we were not going to have that problem every time we need to tell a story that we have to go and do some analysis. No, the numbers will be the numbers, and those numbers will speak for the 12 months. And that's really was the intention of doing this, so that it's part of your business cycle, is that the analysis that we do feeds into a document that stays and remains for 12 months, and so that it's a document you can rely upon to have meaningful conversation with government. And so that's really been and we'll probably provide further information on that once we've completed everything. I think it's just the level of effort that's involved to do that. So that's still in progress now. And I will take questions where appropriate, and you want to talk to me. The other one there again from March 2025, that was...
Sorry, CEO.
Sorry.
With regards to that item,
What?
particularly the advocacy part of it,
What?
in the recent visit of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Social Justice Commissioner to Bible,
Katie.
yeah,
I saw the letter.
wow. So we just need some, I think I sent it to Holly.
Yeah, I saw that, and we'll action that.
Wow.
We'll action it.
To add context to that, and I think
we're more than happy to.
The figures that we get now, if we can, because she's going to talk directly to Queensland government and the federal government, but more so driving the national agreement, the closing the gap, and how does a current investment commitment from government not sufficient enough to sustain services in the region. So their office is still waiting for it, but one news we can report today that these...
yes, so through the chat was sent this morning, so we don't work on it.
Thank you very much.
We'll get that action.
Wow. But I think it's perfect timing, like when you speak and Holly around the evaluation stuff that's being done. We want to provide update information. So, Deputy, if you can let the office know that it is forthcoming, and we want to give them the most recent updated stuff.
And there I speak the numbers, the jump of the numbers are big. So you might as well use the official numbers, which is the most up to date. And also, I think that I'll probably, through Amy, I'll come back and maybe talk to the mayor and the deputy mayor. We'll probably set up a little bit of a Teams meeting with, Polly and others, and maybe we'll just have a bit of a discussion in terms of, because I think from an advocacy perspective, we have to do it operationally, as I have done in the last couple of weeks. I've started to talk to various departments, various leaders, but then the advocacy also has to be at ministerial level, which is council, not me. Us accompanying you, but it's about your voice and your representation. So how are we going to, set that up in the next couple of months so that it works? Because this is a story that we have to sustain or put a really strong argument over a period of time We have to hit the right, so I talked to Angus yesterday. Also the budget cycle, we need to hit the budget cycle for each government so that we talk to them prior to the budget, so that it reflects in their response in the budget. And so that's been our sort of plan. That's why getting the analysis done for you is so important, because if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have numbers that we can rely upon. And you know, people will argue, but this is independent numbers, they're solid, they're very defensible, and we've got a good process now that is over 12 months old, that is very consistent, and it gives council confidence that your story is a very good story.
Thank you.
That's all. And so the next one there, advisory, that came out in March 2025 meeting. Advisory committee chairs and executives to update their committee work plan. I believe I've seen really good updates. Is that right? Is everyone up to date on that?
Yeah.
I think there's the committees. Is that right, everyone? Because that's not for me. That's for the ASPEC chairs and the EDs. But I have seen stuff come through that looks like everything's pretty much up to date. Is that right? Yeah, it's pretty good. So well done, everyone. And look, I mean, again, the due date there is August 2025. So I think if there's ones that we haven't, you know, that haven't picked up, we'll make sure that it's all consistent and set and it's operating really well by August 2025. The next action item after that is for me to review, update the action items for the former SARG. I haven't done that yet, so that's still in progress. I will endeavour to get that done in the next period before next SARG, I think, if that's okay. The next action item following that is the Mubyork sewage treatment plant. Again, this is a matter is ongoing. We've had no further success other than you know, being in communication with the various departments, including Estate and Commonwealth. Have we got any discussion on that, David? I'm sorry, I may not have the most up-to-date information. What was our plan with the? We haven't got the money yet, have we? No. We did write to TSIRC again just recently.
There's an agenda item later in closed business.
Okay, there we go. So this will, so can I just leave that action item to you? You'll probably consider a few more details in closed business today. But let's just say that that's still an issue that we're still obviously working through. The next action item, this was from January 2024 meeting. ED Corp prepare a brief for the upcoming Economic Growth Committee meeting, which included the original business case for Elphinstone. As Mayor and Council will know, this sort of, you know, sort of tipped into the TAP sort of strategy, if you like. That's something as recent as just the other day, I believe Scott sought some update from Wayne, is that right? Have we got anything on how we're evolving some of that?
Yep, so through the chair, there'll be a council report for the meeting at Mubyork in July. Tender shut on last Friday, and then we're just going through the evaluation stage and addressing queries from the tenderers. So we have got a couple of prices there, but we're just going through the evaluation stage, and the paper will be presented at the July council meeting.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think, man, with both those two actions, they'll all probably collapse into, you know, pretty much being resolved, and by council meeting in Mubyork, at least you'll, you know, at least the way the action items are positioned there, because as I said, we do have a strategy. We have been evolving that. It's just taken some time because there's a whole bunch of moving parts. But I'm pretty confident that that's going to be, you know, presented as something that's been developed in consistent with the expectations of council, and to your satisfaction. So I'm happy for those actions to stay, but my recommendation would be by next SARG is that possibly will, you know, we close those action items because they'll no longer be relevant. Any questions? No? The next one, this was from January 2024, still an outstanding action, ED Corporate Services to prepare a brief for February 20, well, that was a long time ago, in relation to council enterprise deployment. Again, I think divestment policy, as we know, this is sat in abatement because of some of those other elements that we're still working through, including the current consultation for, you know, economic development in the Torres Strait. So they're very important pieces of work that needs to be done prior to us being properly, I suppose, dispose this particular issue. As I've sort of mentioned previously to council, there is, you know, we understand the challenges around the divestment policy being such an old policy document that has sat and has had created a lot of expectation for community and for council, but we need to properly dispose with that in terms of what we are going to do going forward, but also some of the legacy issues that we simply can't, you know, be bound to because it would be very onerous for council. So the next one, the CEO has prepared communication with DPAT Treaty Liaison Officer to formulate treaty issues. This was, did we do anything in relation to that? This is a very old action item there. I suspect that this one might need to be closed because I think it's lapsed significantly. Councillor, have you got any comments on that one? Because
I think it's last, but it's updated since then in a different direction to do with the closure. So I think it should be just reworded.
Reworded what?
An action
Wow.
look into issues arising since the closure.
Wow.
Temporary closure for the elections.
Wow.
So although the temporary closure, the suspension of the movements, people are still accessing the region for cultural purposes, mainly for funeral. People can go over outside and vice versa, but more so coming into our space. And there's been a high increase of non-compliance movement that are being, families take them in without the approvals, necessary approvals, and hiding them in council social housing. And the borders closed, and they're not here for, they're not here by approval, but also not for the purpose of, as per the treaty arrangements, and that's having significant impact and safety concerns, but health concerns too, on our side. And I think we're seeing more of that on the sideline. So if that wording can be done to reflect how do we address breaches during the suspension, and also what we wanted to do, the CEO, was to look at how do we streamline and capture the data of movements, because at the moment we don't have something in
I remember that.
to capture how many people come in, say for which island, which region the most heavily affected, because we can use those data to attract investment, because we have more people moving under the treaty than the people that we're responsible for, that's in our local government jurisdiction. And at the moment we're still operating on paper permit system, and we wanted to look at something where you get on both sides or can register, or when the because some councils are provided with phones and laptops, can there be a system set up where, like our visitors protocol, so that we can capture all that? Sorry, Dawson, you have your hands up? Dawson, can you hear me? You had your hands up. Sorry, I'm just checking the volume.
you can hear Dawson talking. I think you just got to go through the TV maybe. So if you go the next one down, Harold, see how it says speaker and then it says Ison. I think if you just pick that one, Dawson may come through speaking.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so morning everyone. Through the chair, so we started this exercise. We've collected the stats for numbers for the permits that have come through. And we've started reporting, I think, in May. So it's part of my information report to council each month. When we first had this conversation, we had the team to go through and collect the information, and at the moment it's still manual processing, so we need to automate that process somehow. But also there's still, as you say, Chair, there's still permits or visitors that are not going through the proper process, so there's still missing information there. Where staff are aware of breaches or non-approval visitors, traditional visitors, they're just updating that spreadsheet as well. So I'll have that in the July monthly report. It's part of my information report.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair,
That's all.
through the chair, Dawson, is that data that captured when TVs are requested to come over, or are those entering, community members entering PNG? We don't actually have the
Both.
data that when they come, arrive on shore each day. Because I think it's hard to try and get that data from BMOs and biosecurity.
Yep.
Wow. That's the number we need on how many actually those come over. Because what TSIRC got is the other one we enter PNG or request families to come over. That's the amount of people that actually come over on shore each day.
Dawson?
Through the chair, the data has for both what we've captured for uni people going over the border and for traditional visitors coming over to us.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just one thing, Dawson, with the data, current data, do we capture, or is there a way we capture those hosts that are breaching, but as well as Section 16? Under Section 16, those that are banned?
I haven't seen a ban list, but I can, I'll ask the team if we are keeping that information separate. I've only seen numbers of people, like for the movements. Maybe some of them include people who are, we fall under the Section 16 or banned from visiting this side or the other side, yeah. As like they would be recorded as breaches. But yeah, I'll confirm, because I understand that you got some of that situation still happening in some divisions. Wow.
Through the chain, Dawson, just a comment. I go one comment. We need to try and see if we're able to capture information around health as well. When we're having people coming into the region, if they're able to go for some sort of a check before coming inside for our region, especially when it's to deal with mosquito-borne diseases or tuberculosis. That needs to be included inside. My experience that with TJ, that if it could be added into the form that way you come inside community. Health centers,
Yeah. Thank you, Dawson.
Yeah, so Dawson, through the chair, just to complete that, I think, Mayor, we could probably maybe put some work. I'll talk to Dawson, and I'm glad, Dawson, you started doing that. Thank you. Because we need to, I think maybe even if we engage in just a small piece of work and very focused on taking some of that stuff and really presenting it in a letter format that talks to the government about these critical issues, and the Australian government I'm talking about, because there's a data issue in terms of collection and systems that we need. There needs to be better interaction or collaboration between the agency and TSIRC. There's also issues such as what Deputy Mayor's raised, which is the issue of transmittable diseases, that are not screened when people are entering into community, and their stay means that our community members are then exposed, and so on. So I think, and there's a range of issues there that has been raised, but it's sort of sat here in the action register, but we haven't, I think, summarised it and put it into a document, and we're not going to do it internally because we haven't got the capacity. So I think perhaps we would turn it into just getting a small engagement, get a consultant. If council or SARG members are agreeable and supportive of it, I can certainly look at how we can do it. And it's just a simple, very targeted report or document or letter communication from under the mayor's pen, just to say to the minister, these are the issues, and we need to address. Happy to do that, and obviously then that sort of resolves this issue, because then I think we can practically then consider what authority the agency can give to their department or relevant officers to then act on some of those things. Because I think at the operational level, certainly the officers are aware. As we know, TJ is very active in the region and suburb, but it needs to be authorised by a minister or support that there needs to be something different other than the common or the same treatment by the department, which is the same stuff we get every day. Okay, so I'll talk to Dawson. So Dawson, that'll be our action. That's okay, and I think we can probably do a very focused one just to gather some of that information and put it together. And on that basis, I think that sort of deals with the action items in both from the January 2024 meeting as well as the March 2023 meeting. Again, it's the same issue, and I think we just need to get rid of them. And finally, the last one, that's in relation to the MIP. That's a matter I'll raise today again. As we know, that's still that's a question of that's a TSIRC issue, in the sense that I do believe that they've had some positive response from the state, in relation to co-contribution. But the question I'll be raising today, particularly with the CEO, is still the fact that the expected investment from our side is significant compared to, again, the same approach by funders to fund, and quite limited. And process itself, and we've raised this because we know we've got real live examples, and this is me talking to you as SARG members, is that money that's been promised 3 years ago, it takes 3 years for you to get the money here. And for us to be able to turn sod, as in start the project. And by the time you get 3 years later, the way when we asked for the money, we said the project is worth that much. It's, oh my God, it's jumped so much. So the cost of the project means that your scope then is suddenly, we asked for to build this thing, suddenly it's reduced to only this, or only this. And that's because of that hyperinflation in our region, and that's a problem. And so we need to cut through that red tape, and the current methods that our funders have adopted and continue to adopt is insufficient, because it doesn't address that fundamental problem, is that we've got this massive drift, and we're not getting ahead of it, because we're really responsible to operationalise that from an investment point of view. And so that's a matter I will be raising, because I think if you look at the MIP, and even if with the previous the Commonwealth Government budget and possibly the state being able to match that, that's insufficient to meet even what we're talking under the SIP in terms of what we need as a required investment. And if that MIP is for investment into 3 regional councils, Torres Shire, NPark, and TSIRC, it is even, You know what I'm saying? It's even worse. It's not enough, and they need to scale up, you know, in a way that's reasonable, that's going to be fair to every council in the region, but that again, that links to your advocacy as well. But that's a matter I will seek some guidance or direction from the CEO today at TSIRC, just to see, you know, what his thoughts are.
Thank you.
That's all the actions, Mayor.
Thank you very much, CEO, for the action update. Just in response to the MIP stuff and your engagement with TSIRC CEO, if we can also flag the possibility of TSIRC presenting at the next TSIRC board meeting to focus on unpacking the MOU, particularly around those both strategic and operational teething issues at the moment with funding, and also some of the emergent challenges we've got with unplanned maintenance, with essential infrastructure, essential to life infrastructure in the region. I think the TSR is going through a phase now where all the local governments are going back to, after the border being settled, they're now going back and looking at the MOU and trying to align it to addressing, improving the relationship, the partnership, service delivery, and looking at how do we collaborate on a united approach to advocacy for the region. I think there's a real opportune time for us to take the next step and speak well on the challenges we got here at the moment, where TSIRC, I know just roughly looking at the update I received from David with regards to the infrastructure, probably around 61 point something million for projects identified under MIP. That was just for TSIRC itself. And the recent announcement of the state budget to TSRA, you're correct, it's probably around 60 or 70 million MIP for the entire region for 3 councils or 5, and it raises concern. And now that we're moving in our SIP, the strategic investment plan, we were sitting at 81 million for the first year for the 3 class asset, and now we're talking about a 30% increase because of the valuation. I do have really great concerns around how this is going to run. So I really want us to raise this with TSRA, but also there needs to be a piece for UNCLOS to go back to community and explain what are the external contributing factors for us not addressing, and continue to reshuffle prioritization across the region because of the limited funding that's being made available to the region. But I'm really impressed, CEO, with yourself and the executive team to kind of help us to put our fingers on the pulse and have a good understanding of finance, although it's stressing us out a bit, and I think we're sharing the sleepless nights with our executive. But it's because now we have an understanding about how Titanic is traveling in Torres Strait, trying to deliver for vulnerable, remote, discrete communities with extreme challenges. But I'm really impressed and overwhelmed, and have full confidence in myself and the executive team to be able to give us that reassurance but confidence to have come into these spaces and talk like we sabi what we talk about now, and we know what our challenges are, and where there's real clarity around it in this leadership today, and it's a true reflection of the commitment and leadership of TSIRC. So I really appreciate everybody's effort and nuancing with trying to get us up to speed with everything.
So through the chair, Mayor, for your confidence in the executive team, As I said to the executive, the LT the other day, and with the exception of two of the execs that were busy heavily engaged in negotiation, I did say to the rest of the executive group, but I'll say it for everyone's benefit today, is that, you know, during the executive DLT, sort of our leadership forum that we do you know, when we try to be as regular as possible, but it's our forum. But the important thing is the forums are not enough. We are actually a leadership team that supports the execution and vision of council, and that we have to work together to achieve the objectives for our community. And I thank the executives, because I think that's really what it's about. It's not what I do, it's actually the executive group working together, you know, to achieve those things, because it supports that vision and the aspiration of our community and our council. Dealing with the challenges that we know and the constraints and all the other stuff, which are significant, as we know. But we needed to also get the rigor in the back end to ensure that our data, our analysis, our systems are solid. And I really want to say that that's been I think the hard work that the team has really put together, especially Holly, and the work that has been done at the back end has really giving us that ability to tell a very consistent story. And I think over time, council will see the benefit of that, because you see a very consistent narrative that's going to appear, that even our funders, our community, everybody else, it's not apparent now, it's only 1 year young kind of thing. But as we keep on repeating the story and we keep on pushing it out there, and we run our communication channels, and we start to navigate this with, you know, with that degree of confidence that we know what we're talking about, as well as the practical stuff that we're doing, including from a revenue perspective and a cost perspective. We're still working on the efficiency stuff to ensure that we understand where the big opportunities are to be more efficient. You know, to fix problems, we know there's going to be a grind. It's not something that there's a magic wand somewhere that we're going to fix the efficiency problem. But there's also the revenue problem, and this is the stuff that from a capital as well as an operational perspective. So, SO Mayor and Council.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the next. That was for noting SARG members. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the matters under the mayoral items. And as per the reports submitted, so we've spoken about how can we provide update or response feedback to SARG on how the individual advisory committees are established, although the committees are not required to do certain things as the standing committee, the SARG. It is an important part that drives things in those advisory committees. So I want to thank and acknowledge the efforts of advisory committee chairs for providing update to SARG. So long we are there, we know what's happening, what has been discussed, what's in progress at the moment, and what we're expecting to come to SARG or to the full council. I want to acknowledge both the advisory committee chairs and the executive directors who work beyond the call of duty to kind of make these things work and achieving kicking goals along the way. I'll give a few minutes for each advisory committee chair to just give an update on what's been noted in their reports. We'll start with culture, arts, land and heritage. Thank you, advisory committee chair, Councillor Oliver.
I would get Susan to kick us off, and then I'll give an update, especially around the MOU and transfer.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Susan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. The committee had a meeting scheduled, which unfortunately did not go ahead, and neither did the informal meeting. However, there were a lot of informal catch-up meetings at the Massey Council meeting, and Councillor Oliver has also been in touch with the two other members of the committee and progressed some of the items. The topics that we discussed were PVC and MOUs, which is Councillor Annabelle alluded to, and obviously the trustee policy. The trustee policy is coming to the trustee meeting on Mobiac, which is a major milestone for this committee. And we have in-principle support from the UGA PVC for the MOU as well. Chair will be attending the Mobiac meeting as well. Other than that, the next committee meeting is next Tuesday, and we have the agenda ready and supporting papers to go.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you, Suzanne, and probably thank you for your direction in the portfolio. So just adding on to that, coming off tail end of that, if you remember in the workshop I delegated tasks to the other portfolio members because what I see was that we were focusing too much on the MOU and global transfer, and there were other priorities that should have been looked at. So that was just some of that. Going on to the committee members, that was things around the regional cup festival. I think it was cultural awareness for TSIRC staff, things like that, just to get us start off on that. But they will be passed in our formal meeting to be our action items for the portfolio. With our global transfer and MOUs, we're looking at general principle of agreeing and assigning after yesterday's meeting that we're looking at the chair and directors to be at the side for signing of the MOU. In saying that Cyber was met with by myself on Monday and Joe, so Cyber is training as well. They've had their first meeting on Monday with myself and Joe. So in terms of next weekend before baseline, it looks like they have a general principle agreement for the MOU from Cyber. So it looks really good in terms of doing the MOU. They're looking at options with RTBCs, in-depth UGAR, and it looks like they're going to be signing before the internal determination day next year, and Cyber is looking at the same as well. So steps going forward, which will be looking at action to the portfolio next week, is where to from here because of all the other RTBCs, and looking at a time frame and bringing back a time frame and cost analysis on how much TSIRC actually spends on each of these, and looking at the way going forward to how what we're going to be presenting to the state. So,
thank you. That's good. Thanks very much. I appreciate the feedback and the work done behind the scenes to get where it is. As you know, one of the biggest problems for our council is fighting, not only fighting for the money, but getting the money spent in communities. So this partnership and open dialogue and building this relationship will ensure that we're delivering on the investment that we've been funded for. But what you guys are doing is really setting the precedent for the rest of the island. We hope that this will follow the suit and be much more easier than the remaining 13 or 12 other islands that we've got. So thanks very much. Really appreciate the support, your leadership in that space, both the advisory committee chair and executive director support. Thank you. We'll move on to Economic Growth Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Mosby. I think just the committee had its meeting on the 15th of June, correct? Is that right? 13th of June. And then we also had another session meeting on the 20th of June with Natalie from the Department of where is she from? Department of Women, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Partnership and Multiculturalism. She's the director of the Economic and Social Policies and regarding to economic development. So myself and David Brown, a support officer, economic officer, and attended that meeting, and Suzanne gave apologies to other commitments. It was a really good meeting, and I think so we've sort of met with them to discuss the economic development strategy that we currently working on. And I met Natalie when I attended the Indigenous Summit in Brisbane back in May. And she approached me because she read TSIRC report and saw that we were implementing an economic development strategy for the council. So I think having that meeting with Natalie is kind of really good because she's pulling in different people now within the State Department on and I think it's really good for me. What I'm seeing is because at the end when the strategy is actually in place, we will be looking at, okay, who are the people that we need to partner with to be able to drive the aspirations of our people to pursue the economic development strategy. So it was actually a really good meeting, and we're aiming to have another meeting once the phase 1 report is completed. They're very eager to know how that went, what are the aspirations of our people. So we aiming to have another meeting around in end of August, so another session meeting for the committee. So we do have some other session meeting, but the main I think for the committee is around the economic strategy, the development strategy. Phase 1 is almost coming to a completion, which should be done around August. We hoping that once the report is done, I'll be through Susanna to invite John and David to present that phase 1 report through to SARG. I think the also other work that we're doing externally is around the CDP. I know that we'll be discussing in closed business, so I won't talk much on that. But some of the challenges that we have around on some of the agenda topics that we have, especially the divestment policy, that is actually on hold until we completing the trustee policy, which I know Councillor through your committee, that I think once the trustee policy is done, then we aiming to look at the divestment policy. And I think what the CEO has highlighted some of the concerns, that we're hoping to bring them things to the November workshop on what we need council directions, and we will pursue now with that piece of work.
Sorry, Councillor Stephen. So is there this for the trustee policy coming to the Novia Council Review meeting?
Trustee meeting.
Yeah. Cool. That'll be great. So once that's endorsed by council, then we can.
So we planned if once that is endorsed, then we possibly will be calling for another session meeting to discuss the investment policy and what we need to bring to November. I think one of the other challenges
will the divestment policy still be subject to us finalizing the economic development strategy, or
that they kind of but the strategy should support the policy, because we go talk about how getting people to, because support the aspiration of business people want to work. So we're not going to need to wait. We can do that, but we want to bring a report to council to say if we're going to divest them accommodations, but are we going to fix them? These are the things that we need to look at, and services and all these things. So we are looking at doing that. I think one of the other challenges we're having is through the committee, the support for the feasibility study for Amanina Ferry. Susanna and David's been working really hard trying, with TSIRC to secure funding, and so these are some of the challenges that we face with the committee, but we don't, it's still on our agenda to pursue.
Before you go on, Kim, I see there's a opportunity there that I find that is not in the trustee policy on my end, is where you have the directors of the RTBC talk about the dogger transfer, then what are they gonna do with the doggers? So I can answer for them because economic, it goes straight into your part. Is there any way where, while we're in this first way, your portfolio prepares something so that it becomes, flows straight into that, your area, because what you're gonna find is, they're gonna go and then they will start back up again to do that, whereas they one time, so that you want to work with the RNTBC plus while we're in the, dogger transfer process, then that's where they are now. As you can see yesterday's meeting, they were looking like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Because they don't have that. We have to remind them they one time that even the economic, because we were under the MOU at the start, the signing of the partnership, non-legal binding document, but the ripple effects, when you look at it, MOU, then you got the transfer policy, then you go on to feed into this. Yeah, so it needs to, economic needs to come in like now. Meet the player now because people are looking at what are they gonna do and they don't have the savvy because we're working separately. We parallel, we're supposed to be one time there with them if there's an opportunity for that, because that's what I did yesterday, and I just said an action item for the directors to know that we will come back for the next meeting with EMPLA, and we're going to actually come back with things like maybe we work together, the portfolio works together with EMPLA. But the opportunity there is there for this to come out and straight in the door.
To be included in the MOU.
Yes. Not with the MOU, but because you will come with the RTBC.
Yeah,
They've already funded for projects.
I think it's a discussion that both of you have to take offline with your executive director and shape that conversation and look at the risk. If you talk about economic development right now in this initial part, it might open up a whole lot of other things. And I'm mindful that we're discussing things now in open business, but maybe a conversation for you to discuss with Susan about which stage you can tap around or use this conversation, or at what level of the conversation about economic you talk about inside where the MOU, because that economic space could widen that relationship where you don't just forget the basic principles of working together. I'm just mindful that we're not putting the cart before the horse and do one thing at a time to that's something that we can take offline and discuss.
Yes. I think this is why we're not talking about any diversity, because we still, council endorsed the resolution to say everything is on stand still until we develop the policy. Then we can start opening discussion.
So I think the current decision of council is to put a hold on everything.
Yes.
I think
that's the resolution until the trustee.
Until the trustee, but then we've actually gone one step further to put an MOU in place first. And we just have to have a little bit of patience, I think, with ourselves and with our partners. Take small steps, we'll get there.
But otherwise, there must be some of the other topics that we discussed in our committee, the renewable energy project and transportation, like that covers the possibility transport issues for Duan and Ugar that we capture also. So our next meeting is in line, we're aiming for September. Our date is yet to be confirmed, but one of our biggest focus now is the economic development strategy, where phase 1 is about to be completed, and we're having conversation on what's going to happen on phase 2, which is subject to funding availability. Otherwise, this is the report for the Economic Growth Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen. Suzanne, again for your commitment and leadership in this space. Certainly a lot of things happening behind the scene, particularly challenging times trying to shuffle work, commitments and priorities with the possible task list of things we've got to do, and meeting that deadlines, and also making sure that it doesn't undermine or jeopardize our statutory obligation to maintain service delivery in community. But so appreciate that. Keep up the good work. We'll jump to the next standing committee. Councillor Thomas not here, but David, are you able to provide update on in the environment and climate space? Is that yours?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. I appreciate it.
So on page 25, councillors, and I'll just go through the sections of the report, starting with from April to June. There was no official meetings. I think there was an attempt to have 2 meetings, but we were not able to accommodate that. However, there was a fair amount of correspondence, as there kind of normally is, between myself and councillors, the 3 councillors in the committee, on the main areas which were canvassed are these dot points below. So the Torres Strait and Northern Area Climate Resilience Officer project. So we're able to secure that funding and complete milestones 1 and 2. Councillors might be aware that it's a $3.95 million Commonwealth funded project, not through TSIRC but through a different department in the Commonwealth. With the expectation we'll employ up to 9 new entrants, new staff. Big focus will be training and development of those staff, engagement with community, and partnerships with the other recipients of funds, which is GBK and Torres Shire. I understand NPark did not apply for funding under this program. So milestones 1 and 2 are complete, which is essentially reformatting the budget and the project scope, noting that we had applied for $5 million and anticipated there'd be $5 million of funding. Myself and Dawson have been working together on this, and due to the nature of the program now, which will mostly, or almost, it's entirely Indigenous focused employment, training and engagement, and gaining knowledge, and divisional based employment. Dawson's team will be heading up the project. However, engineering will provide technical input and advice and oversight in partnership with Dawson and his team in relation to matters such as the CHAS and any other sort of engineering, technical, coastal related matters. So there's a transition occurring as we speak, and Dawson, myself and a new staff member about to commence in Dawson's team, and we'll be discussing that on the week of the 21st of July. Mirabel project, renewable energy. So I undertook my own assessment of the emissions gains or climate carbon emissions gains, and presented that to the committee in a really good pictorial format, and based on the assumptions and my overview of that, it has quite a positive potential outcome in terms of emissions reductions. So the committee has a fairly comprehensive report, which would be great to be tabled to SARG in the near future due to the visual sort of aspect of the emissions gains that can be made. Environmental policy and climate change policy. So I have tabled policy revisions and updates to those 2 current policies, and I'm just working with the committee to get their endorsement of that so I can table it to the rest of the council. However, they're kind of just administrative minor policy changes. Councillor Tamu is keen for TSIRC to develop what he refers to like a green policy, which is more of an overarching sustainability style policy, which we don't currently have. However, we haven't progressed on that. And the ongoing need for waste management funding to enable our new sort of paradigm shift in how, and a total change of how we operate waste management in Torres Strait is certainly still on the radar, but it's not getting any hits at the moment from external funders. Similarly, it's not in this report, but I'll just add that we have worked quite closely with the state to complete the Arab landfill closure assessment, and with RPS, our consultants that we've engaged through funding from the state. So that'll greatly inform the likely cost of closing landfills, and that report will be finished in the next approximately 6 weeks or less. And it will also inform, I guess obviously the more important thing is the methodology and how we need to close the various typical styles of landfills, such as Musig, Sci-Fi or Arab, typical sort of landscapes. Just moving on quickly, highlights.
Sorry, David. Just with regards to the landfills, with the work Todd and them are doing around evaluation, is that considered as part of that exercise as well, or and how do we use that to advocate?
Holly might be able to handle that better, but in terms of the closure costs, I don't think it's going to be mature enough over the next few weeks, but it's certainly close. But I don't think it's going to be captured in Todd's current work. It's more likely to fall into next time or next year.
Okay.
So through the chair, the landfill closures are not under the valuation scope. However, it does still fall into the financial statements, as there is a requirement, there's a provision in the financial statements for the closure of those landfills, which David's report and information will provide costings for. So David has sent me an email in relation to the methodology that we need to do. Council needs to do a position paper to audit in relation to that. So it doesn't sit within Todd's work, but it does still sit within the financial statements.
Okay, thank you.
Through which I think the sort of hidden liability for landfills is probably greater than what we have traditionally been making provision for. But we never had an actual report or directive from the state as to what is required to close a landfill. So this state funding of $150,000 to do this exercise will greatly inform what we should be doing and providing for, both financially and practically.
Thank you.
In terms of successes, I've talked about the Climate Resilience Officer program. Another one which is grant's still pending, but I have written advice that it's successful, is the UGA Coastal Erosion Protection project. That's along a relatively small but important area of coastline, and we're looking at doing a quite innovative approach where we'll use essentially semi-submerged ocean-based nature-based sort of solution using hopefully naturally occurring oysters and the like. So it'll be kind of a one of its kind approach. So I'm yet to get a formal funding agreement, but certainly have formal advice that the funding's been approved. So that'll be quite an exciting, interesting project. Talked about Arab. Through Chair, probably the challenges are ensuring that we can recruit these up to 9 staff for the Climate Resilience Officer project. And also, we don't currently have anybody in the environmental space as a TSIRC employee apart from myself. So we're looking at trying to recruit again soon. And also, I've just recently made some changes to the water and wastewater team, so it's now called the Water and Environmental Engineering Department. Just recently, this week, I think Emma Evans has been successful as a manager of that role. And the environmental space, which used to be, everyone used to know JARA, that role will sit in that more holistic water and environment space as of last week. And through Chair, priorities for next quarter, I've talked about resourcing, the CRO, the Climate Resilience Officer project, the Ugar Coastal Project landfill closure plan. But the last dot point's progression of the Warraba seawalls and Mussig, along with consideration for the likely, I understand, stage 3 seawalls program.
Thank you, David. Any comments, questions? BSO, thank you very much, David, for the work that's been done in the space, and particularly the collaboration with yourself and Dawson with the current investment of 3.9 mil?
3.95.
Yeah, 95. In this space, I think the engagement and partnership stuff is going to be interesting to see how we're going to work with other key players in the region, and having these MOUs in place with PVCs will really really make us try and see if the value of those MOUs and whether we're achieving regional goals. Well, I think that other stuff that we're doing in that space of the landfills, we will need more education around that, David, with our full council. So I don't think we properly or understand the magnitude of the risk with the current regime of government investment, but how we're trying to solve a very big issue that's here, and how do we have this conversation in other spaces like the TSIRC, like at our regional forum meetings, to try and get a regional approach to regional landfills, not just in TSIRC but across the 3 local governments. I think we'll go stronger, particularly with the work of the ROC. And these are some of the things that's an issue right across the 3 local governments. But like we've always said, and a principle in ours is that we get our own house in order first. And I'm really appreciative of how we're progressing in this space. I think government and people in our region think that exercise we undertook in 2000 and the removal of metal waste project, I think people have been hanging their hats on that approach. This is a one-off, solving the problem that we've got when it's only scratching the surface. Well, but I'd really like us to work out how we're going to go, because when I look at the MIP investment, I don't think there's anything in there that addresses the landfills and the dumps and the environmental impact to communities. Well, most of it is wastewater and water in the MIP stuff. Yeah. Is there an indication from the state around investment in this space?
No.
Okay, so with all the infrastructure that's being built at the moment, the capital works projects and the housing stuff, have we made sure that it doesn't further increase or impact on the landfills?
Through the chair, with the housing and that, there's nil waste on site. Any building construction work, it's got to be more charged to our funding partners, or broken up when we tender to be removed from the vision.
Okay, so with projects that are not TSIRC, but with other departments, they do that as well?
That's just the enforcement problem that we've had in the past. So remember a while ago, even some of the communities like Wildberry, if you go to a legacy one where people just lived in something. That's the broader conversation we're doing internally in terms of raising that compliance using local laws to ensure that we do the enforcement. Because as I've mentioned previously in various discussions, it's actually, that's one of the areas where we're not picking community. We don't necessarily want to target community members, but if they're big infractions where people are doing destruction to environment or actually illegal materials, just we need to start thinking about what's our position on enforcing those local laws around, or whether we have those things sufficiently in place where we can find people for creating those, in a sense, vandalism, and it's actually a cost to council because we have to clean them up. And like you look at the exercise we did on Wildwood, that was a couple $100,000, 400. No, the one previous. Remember when we?
At the house.
Yeah.
Yes.
$400,000. We cleaned up Wildwood. Yes. And that was just people leaving stuff there, and there was no enforcement previously.
So we've got things in place now to make sure it's...
That's the thing we're looking at, because we have to look at, this is a practice here all over the entire 15 communities. And we have to then start to think about what's our policy, where are we going to impose in compliance, and what does that look like? Because especially contractors that are non-TSIRC related, we had an issue on MER.
So who does the compliance stuff at the moment?
EHW, so that'll be with Dawson. And so that's one of the areas that Dawson and I have had conversations about. And again, it's about building that. So going beyond dogs and animal management. We want to go beyond animal management into a broader, environmental regime. Wow. Okay. So it is work in progress, man.
Thank you.
Through the chair, we have an example that James, you're aware of at Bardu that you saw when we went for a drive, a buried car, foam and tyres. So we have contract arrangements, which are essentially contract law. We have local laws. We have EHWs. On that example, we still have what I consider to be likely illegal dumping.
Yes.
But then we don't own the doggett. So it's quite complex, because there is an argument that they have potentially been allowed to dump.
Yeah, so we should be dealing with them ultimately. So if you look at Badu or you look at Mer, if it's on land that is not council and we don't have a lease over it, and let's say somebody has done illegal activity there, they've dug something and everything else, the potential there is that we can't find the person because it's not our land. We have to find the owner of the land because they permitted the activity on their land. So now it's the PDC's responsibility to regulate what's going on their land. So you can see that's the nuancing, whereas we can do it because we're the trustee. On the mother community, we go straight to the contractor because they've done it on our land. So that's a really important thing, and this is a complexity that we're managing. And, we have to do it properly and fair, because then the best thing the community can do, or any proponent can do, is that they can actually request a judicial review of anything that we do. So we have to give procedural fairness. You have to follow all the standards of a public organization, and that's why we have to be very careful in the way we do it.
Thank you. So in the conversation with PBCs, particularly around the MOU stuff and the transfer of dog and different case studies can be provided to them. So what's our obligation, and if it could be transferred, this is some of the practical things that are happening at the moment, so that they understand the challenges, but also how they can support us, and when their time comes, it's going to be their headache.
Because it's going to be pleasant. Well, because they carry the cost. Yeah, because people are going to make. I'm just going to step up for a second.
David, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Morning, Mayor.
Morning.
Everyone.
Morning, Councillor.
Morning. We'll now move on to governance and leadership.
So Mayor, apologies from our chair this morning. So I could just give a brief update on what we've done so far. So we've only had one meeting. You got the attached minutes here for the meeting on the 30th of April that we had. We the topics that we spoke about was the updated work plan. Daryl, what has that been sent? Did Councillor Toby send that?
No, I haven't.
Yep.
I
Okay.
haven't received it.
So those are the topics that we spoke about to update our work plan. We had a meeting with, we had Kim from our manager of governance and risk, Kim Gowan, and we joined Mipla with that meeting to discuss the TSIRC name change to Zenakis Regional Council. So that's still ongoing. Advancing the Massive Statement, we spoke about that, and TSIRC Action Plan. That is, of course, still ongoing. We're working closely with Sandy, with that, Tiller. One of our achievements is, so the discussion that we had around the Massive Statement was just how, when we're speaking about the Massive Statement, to refer to it as Malumu Yanguwakai, being more regional appropriate in how we're talking about the first councillors meeting, because of the misconception or like perception of like people, thinking that it's a mata or masiga, and a central island or one reference. So being inclusive of the region, referring it to as Malumu Yanguwakai, and we're capturing this across all councils, documents and reporting frameworks.
I think that's something we need to consider, because if we will start using that language, we club a Kina to say that I don't know language. So if we will start to interpret the meaning and then things around that one, I think the whole idea we need to make people understand that the Massive Statement refers to the sign, just like the Wuru Statement. Simple, because if we will start to interpret or that language, our language is different to that, and we will start to have that debate around. So just be mindful. That will be my comment as a chemical. Maybe I'm anything.
So Councillor Stephen, noted. And that's pretty much it so far. Update for our governance and leadership, and of course, with our priorities, our top 5 priorities being the more regional issues. I know that the ROC has progressed, communications around like building relationship within the coalition and also the 3 local governments, and with TSRA has been very good in the months since even our May workshop. So there's been a lot of communications in between, a lot of the regional issues, regional conversations. I know that you have been progressing there, and also I have attended the ROC meeting yesterday. And that's pretty much it. Update for governance and leadership. But I assume, or that the Councillor Toby will be working closely with yourself, Mayor. Yes, sir. Our next meeting is the 6th of August. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Deputy Councillor Osimo. We'll move on to the last one, the housing, families, safe and healthy communities. Apologies from Councillor Fell, there's some signal issue on Mobiang. So we'll go to Dawson.
Yes, Mayor. Through the chair, I'll just give a quick update there from that report, or that reporting period from April to June. So the committee had 2 informal meetings with myself and Wayne as well, and the topics was focused around the housing policies when they reviewed the housing policies before it went through to council workshop in May, and also animal management approaches for specifically for Badu. The chair particularly have been involved in the 24JAA, that conversation as well, and he's been supportive of that, as well as the other two committee members. And again, with that animal management, actively involved in the conversation about developing a localized plan as a starter for Badu community. And that's in progress. So the chair has been involved in the task force meeting with the cat and dog act, and they're reviewing that. So I believe the chair was involved in one meeting so far, and also a catch up with Dane Mills from DPI. Which led to the Mastic Council meeting as well, and SO Mayor for linking Dani with us. We've been in touch with Dani ongoing for that advice around animal management as well. And we've listed some of the challenges that we're facing at the moment in that space with housing, ongoing conversation, the tenancy management issues, which I've briefed the chair on as things are happening, and also the risk with animal management, that matter that we've had back in March, Sewe Badu, but just in general, risks across the region, therefore dogs. The committee plan will be update that one as well, and that's attached to that our report there, and I believe it's the second page. It's been updated to reflect some of the action items when we clear it from the June ordinary meeting. Some of the action items there were allocated to the committee, so we've updated the action plan with that, but also in the committee's next meeting, we'll have to do a review and update that as well, our action plan for the next 2 years, with other items that has been carried forward from the first year. So specifically, some of the stuff from the council meeting last month was that Ulgo dredging matters. I believe that was on the action plan, action register, sorry, council ordinary meeting, and that's transferred over to the committee. Also the after-pay facility options, and there was a discussion on peppercorn, which was raised back in the March meeting in Burma, and has come onto the agenda for the action plan for the committee to progress as well as other items. We've also updated that action plan with things that have been completed to date. Through the chair, I don't have anything else unless there's particular questions that I can respond to or take on notice on behalf of the chair. That's all.
Thank you, Dawson. Any comments or questions, SARG members? Thank you very much, Dawson, for the update. Those updates are for Noti. I'm mindful that others, members here and executive, also have other commitments today. So I'll briefly go through the next couple of agenda topics. They're just verbal discussion or updates. Spoken to most of the SARG members, but we have been talking quite some time now around the review of the May and November workshop. Initially and traditionally, we have 2 weeks in May, 2 weeks in November. there's been an urgency and a need for councillors, advisory committee chairs to engage and have community engagement dialogue with community across the region, driving those strategic agendas, even meeting with our capability partners. But as always, we've always looked for backyard money for making things happen. Therefore, we're reviewing some of the current finance in the elected arm space to where can we work smarter than harder. Well, and so I think we've all landed ourselves on cutting back the 2 weeks in May, in November. So I've asked the CEO for Suzanne to put something to us to look at what's the cost savings, and that the aspiration of SARG was that those funds would be redirected into SARG planning and the advisory committee's engagement and dialogue with both across the region and our communities and with government, particularly in that advocacy space. So we moving forward, Suzanne, is something coming to council or that can just happen?
So the chair, it would be maybe a budget review adjustment, but it doesn't really have to happen because it sits in the same budget area.
Yep.
I've just opened the email that I sent to you. The average cost for the last 3 workshops was $153,000 per workshop, and the budget position for this financial year is slightly below that average, but it's roughly that. The estimated savings, depending on where you hold the workshop, I did the estimation by holding the workshop on one of the outer islands, but that is up for discussion. The saving was around $70,000 to $75,000 per workshop, which can be reallocated to the advisory committees and SARG.
If it's held in community.
If it's held in community, yes. If it's held in Cairns, I would have to re-crunch the numbers. We had, so the chair, we did have that discussion on whether you wanted the economic benefit of these workshops to flow to the region, but there are other issues that need to be considered, not just economic benefit.
Logistics cost.
Yeah,
Might actually be a false economy.
it is actually slightly cheaper to go to an outer island, but there are other issues depending on whether you have a SARG meeting that you need to tag onto it, whether there's any ministerial deputations or any of those matters.
Yeah. So when do we, is there something coming to Marburg meeting so that we can focus November's like just round the corner?
So the chair, I believe we are going to put up a adjustment to the meeting act.
There was a confirmation for the October 1 on due one.
Yep.
But pending SARG consideration of what you want in relation to the workshops.
Yep. So it will come to Marburg, but we do need the guidance of what we bring to the council. If we reduce it to 1 week, we will suggest the second week of the currently allocated 2 weeks, which is the second week of November. And the suggestion of where it's being held, I think that's a discussion for you, not for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're in agreement that 1 week.
Okay.
We'll support the second week of November, so we have ample time to organize stuff, and particularly UPLA, our executive director's leadership team to plan if you're going to be away for a week in community. So we're going to give you enough notice to organize yourselves, but also organize logistics for everything to happen. and we'll look at if we want to have ministerial engagement, then it might be directly with SARG in Brisbane or Canberra or here.
Yeah.
If we can.
If you go out, because it will be more.
And then we have a smaller, condensed focus group engaging with government, particularly in this advocacy space around some of the issues we're in at the moment. Was that all you needed to bring to?
Through the chair, I think we do need the answer of whether we are going to hold it on division or whether we're going to hold it in Cairns and what the preference for that is. Because the actual resolution of council will have to read where it's being held. Or if it doesn't necessarily have to be where it's being held, but whether it's being held in division or in Cairns.
Through the chair.
Yep.
Mayor, just with the subject we're talking about, reducing the November and May workshops. Sorry, I didn't really catch some of the earlier conversations about it, but are you getting the team to also look at the costs? How much it will cost how much we save, or how much we go moving for either deputation down south or in community, or is that what you're asking Susan and them to do? Or
yeah,
okay, oh, good.
So we're not just cutting costs, we're talking about redirecting it to reallocating it to the SARG and the advisory committee to do the strategic stuff we want to do with engagement, regional engagement, dialogue, lobby and advocacy to government. Redirecting that cost. Wow.
Oh, no, good. Well, because in some way in the past we cut some costs, but that one ended up not being go for one we planned for do. I don't think so. Even today, we will end up the money where we've been cut from somewhere, we just sort of get cut and we end up do the things that we wanted to. So it's really good, Mayor, that you push for, make sure the money does get reallocated to the things that we want to do.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, thank you. So the last cut I think was from the mayor's one, community grants or something like that.
Well, it was
about 30. No.
So through the chair, it was the regional grants for 60,000. That was reallocated for SARG members to have in-person meetings, which has occurred.
Yeah.
Matt, through the chair.
And it will continue to.
It's through the chair.
And so the savings from 1 week we're doing will add on to that for the purpose of SARG carrying out strategic business.
And through the chair, and this is just my own opinion, I'll just submit to you that for the simple sake of consistency, or at least, let's just get some more padding onto it and everything else. So if you move to a week, you could just go with cans, just for now, and then we have a little bit more planning around the logistics side, just to proper appraise a location for our at the appropriate time for everyone to do that. And I think that it just means that then we have the certainty, we've done it before, we sub it, but it's only reduced to a week. We can really focus on the value add, really focus on, because now you've only got a week, you only got 2 weeks, so we need to make sure that there's a really good enrichment program for that. I'd rather put energy into that than put energy into, we get another location plus there's logistics on top, and then we got to look at the enrichment, like the program we're going to run.
So I think when we do the reach out to you, because we got all the sorry business, it's such a very close.
You do have risks.
It's a big risk too. We got to take it to, and when it happens, the whole community goes into shutdown. So we just got to be mindful with the kind of things that is happening in the region, the union at this time. Is such a big risk too. Especially if you're putting a lot of effort into a week workshop or union, we have to come to it's going to be that is my concern only. If we choose to be in the region, we must be mindful how our community operates when it comes to serving these things. The whole community don't do a shutdown within a month away. And that's a risk to our effort putting and things together and to channel a big workshop into another area.
And through the chair, I think I agree with Councillor Stevens saying, and I think that the vision and courage for council to actually make such a radical decision, because Dupla Sabe how to move the money around and make it work, I think that's a tremendous result, because then, you know, what we're seeing emerging at the moment is a really solid, you know, governance framework with a really good committee system. You know, all those things are evolving nicely. I think we know what you know what I mean. Like, I think we've really achieved as a team, like council and administration, we've achieved, I think, a really good framework. Let's consolidate it and really strengthen that. So, you know, the fact that you've done that, we'll probably learn that from anyway. Once you come to Cairns, we'll learn what savings we would, you know, like in a sense, what that potential, I think we can, like as in, you know, Suzanne probably could do a good model on it. But then we can maybe step it out from a, well, council may wish to visit the region and do this as well. You know, we could do that in the next sort of wave, if you like, in 2026. But big steps, but you know, big leap in terms of, it's been a quantum leap in terms of the way you've changed this. But the little step is, okay, well, let's do it still in Cairns, but consolidate it, resolve all them other issues, and then step it up. And again, what's council's ambition after that? What do you want to do after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wow.
If I can get consensus from us, if we can consider November workshop in Cairns, because the communities we step into, a lot of people actually travel out during the November, December month, graduations and all that. Probably in May, all our May workshops, if we can have that in community, so that end of May, that November month is probably what CEO Holly was talking about, getting the advocacy piece right to engage with ministers in November, December, January, that month before the May workshop. So we're down here, and we either invite ministers to come, or we have a small just the SARG cohort traveling to those engaged with ministers. So, Suzanne, if that could be noted in the report to come to council, all May workshops to be in region, November, and you're right, CEO, while Prasabe, what we're good at doing, and having a more condensed, productive program in that week, because I think we also have that one day and a bit that council meeting attached to it.
What?
In that November. If we can check too, I think there was a clash between the November workshop date and TSIRC board.
So the chair, no, we have already amended that.
Okay.
We've already moved our meeting forward, so there is no clash. I believe there is a clash between GBK and TSIRC, not us.
To the chair, so Mayor, what are we looking at getting rid of from the November and May? Because obviously one day council meeting, we always do budget, we always do state, commonwealth deputations, or any other agencies for state and commonwealth. We always do leadership stuff for councillors, we do the committees, we do executive presentations. So what are we really looking at getting rid of then if we go cut it down?
We will need to consider that. It can't be discussed now, and we won't go through that now, but it'll probably be a matter that we need to take offline and discuss, particularly if we rolling out how we're managing the advisory committees, we should have a clear indication what can go to the agendas for those week meetings. We'll be better informed to plan one of the key priorities over the 3-4 days that we're at these workshops, whether in the region or in Cairns. Wow.
Through the chair, Councillor Tamu Bigeso for the question, and I agree 100% with the mayor. I think that we can go through program design where we can look at the issues, what we've done traditionally, and then look at prioritization, because UPLUG will be decide, not us. I think at the end of the day, it's your forum, and there's a couple of things we need to do, like theme them thing. Consider what's going to be priority for UPLA. It has to fit in with your agenda as council, and it could be relevant to the immediate cycle and emergent issues that you want to deal with right now, or it could be more strategic. You could do a combination of those things, but again, I think, as Mayor said, we'll take it offline and we'll support leadership to maybe do it on Mabiog as an informal discussion first. That'd be good. Because we're all in the same location, we can, put them issue down, and then we can start to formulate some response to how we progress that.
And also, but just last one, I think this, this thing we could do, I think, just to ensure that it doesn't stop us from continue for advocate and lobby for funding for committees, and also we have to work stronger for get the ministers for meet with me, because in the last how many workshops we got, May and November, I don't think we've had one minister, only Kempton and Smith, because they were both new, they met with us. So we have to work harder in that space if we even thinking about getting ministers up to the region and we can't even get them to Cairns. That's all.
Thank you, noted. I'll move on to the next one, which is the TSIRC MOU. Certainly we flagged that in the CEO's update with the action items earlier. But some of the things that I do want the presentation at the TSIRC, and because of my conflict of interest, if the deputy and another member of SARG can accompany the deputy with the CEO to present at the board meeting, first secure the time with the TSRA. But some of the stuff that I'd like us to provide a brief to the TSRA to better understand see some of the operational issues we've got, particularly around the cash flow challenges we got with timing of funding coming in. Some of that one and David will share for me around funding that we depend on and running around late 12 hours to try and get a stat deck signed and all these other things. So I hope we can improve the booking processes. It's probably always pulling your hair out thinking where we're going to get the money from, and we have to pay suppliers and we don't have the money for it. So I want to make sure that all the operational stuff gets highlighted in our presentation. I do want the presentation to include the SIP stuff, also the water security, wastewater and water security. If the presentation could cover that as well. I don't want us to go in and try and the MIP should focus on us, but I think it's important for the board to have an appreciation about the regional challenges that we've got at the moment. The other thing I'd like us to cover in these around that the landfill stuff, if we can put that in there as well. So it's going to be quite challenging, I know, in that native title space. If you're going to close landfills and move to another area, who's going to pay for that? And we are already having financial challenges already. And if it's going to be a regional thing, that we want TSIRC to consider their role in this space.
Okay.
Thank you.
Through the chair, Esor? Yeah, you want to do that?
Yep. 2.4, the rock stuff. The three councils met yesterday. Deputy stepped in my absence with Mayor Poi Poi and Mayor Syriat. And thanks Suzanne for moving things along and progressing that behind the scene. But we had the two mayors and deputy here meeting yesterday to kick off talking to the two consultants from Agony.
Moray and Agnew.
Moray and Agnew. The two people, Phil and Andrew Kerr. Wow. So what it would be wonderful is to make sure that we register establish the ROC, because initially we operated under a charter, and now we wanted to get it registered and engage. Two main tasks is to get it registered, established, and recruit an executive officer or manager to run the ROC on behalf of those three councils. And the main aim of the ROC was to drive the advocacy of regional issues across those three local government footprint. So we're committed to this space. It's also to drive a lot of the reforms that around education, health, economic, climate in those common issues across the three local government footprints. I'm glad that it was recommended for the two councils to meet with the consultant, and we did initially have a date for the establishment on 1st of July, but the dates have lapsed due to feedback received, the delay in feedback from our counterparts. But we don't want to do anything without proper consultation and engagement. And so CEO Suzanne, as well Executive Director for Corporate Services, has been a little bit patient with the councils. We're particularly understandable and appreciative of the leadership change that's happening in both Torres Shire and NPA as well. And we don't want to rush this, but I think once we do have this, there was conversation about ongoing commitment for the sustainability of the entity, but also what council should consider in making it work alongside of these three councils. I think the dates now, was there a date we set yesterday?
I think the first informal meeting will be next week. Once he gets order with after once he gets back with the advice from Greg.
What was Greg's last name?
Hoffman.
Yeah. So, Maureen and you were going to reach out to Greg just to have an informal discussion on like what's the word, just advice on one MMPD with 3 years, and just to have an informal discussion on the types of what's the framework for this initial conversation, and then we can then decide ongoing from there. But then the mayors also mentioned that they wanted to go back to their councils as well, to get a resolution for go ahead with all of this. Like update them for council, that kind of thing.
Any questions, comment? Yes, so 2.5, the anniversary of the first councillors meeting, that anniversary on the 23rd of July. August, sorry, August 23. We haven't applied for money especially for August 23, but there should be community events budget. We're not planning anything significant, otherwise they're going to make a CEO and Susan and fall down.
It's already fallen leave.
But for the celebration, we do want to revisit those things where around the Malungu Yangu Wakai statement. We also want to provide report cards to community about what we've achieved with regards to the statement, some of those strategic things, whether we've achieved it or it's in progress. So Susan, if we can work on developing something that we can provide to community about the yeah.
So a media statement or
Something. I think both, through the chair, if I could, something through media and also communicate updated report for councillors to communicate that with interagency and community information session.
for this particular day?
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be much appreciated.
Thank you.
Wow. And I did flick an email to all the councils around prepping for this and getting feedback. I haven't received anything back yet from anybody. I think I sent it to the committee chair, advisory committee chair, Councillor Toby, and CC'd all the councillors in to look at a theme for this August 23 celebration, particularly leading into the 90th anniversary next year. There's going to be the GBK is going to be hosting 90th anniversary of the Torres Strait Maritime Strike. They're doing it probably in partnership with key partners and players. AXIS, they've invited TSIRC along with regional partners to sit on a committee to develop this. We received correspondence, and I was going to recommend either the chair for governance and leadership or, because it's a cultural thing, the advisory committee chair for culture, arts and heritage, to be part of, to be TSIRC's delegate to represent us at that table when they're doing this plan. Because we're shifting the focus around the name of the statement to Malungu Yangu Wakai Milka, which is the voice from the deep. I think we shouldn't shy away from other people and players wanting to celebrate this day. We'll let them celebrate it, but we'll have our place at the table as well and talk about what we've achieved and what we're progressing towards. I don't feel like this should be owned by anybody or should be owned by us. It's the history of the region, and this certainly should be one of those things that bring us together as a region. So there's appetite for other people to drive this. They've got funding for it. Why not be part of something.
Good for
that's
the region.
Yeah. So I'm really thankful they've reached out to us, and I'll be recommending that the advisory committee chair for culture, arts and heritage be delegate to represent TSIRC at that planning.
Through the chair, that's a great recommendation there. I think it's really good. Good outcome if we can achieve that.
Yeah.
Very supportive.
Yep. And last but not least, I think the 2.6 economic development strategy. Councillor Stephen already provided us an update in his report, but I do want to place on record my acknowledgement, our acknowledgement as well of Councillor Stephen's leadership role in the space of economic growth, especially driving those strategic agendas for TSIRC in this space around economic participation and independence, whether it's economical development or looking at how do we pursue growing our own in the space of employment and training. Biggest of Councillor Stephen, and thank you CEO and executive staff for supporting Councillor Stephen in this space. Challenging times, but nothing is achieved without hard work and commitment. So thank you very much, team. Really appreciate it. That concludes all the matters I wanted to raise here with us. I'm not too sure, Councillor Stephen, did you want to say something, or David, in this space? I see David's online there.
If David want to give I think it's important for the medical report. I think if David to David?
Time frame.
Time frame, yes.
Time frame, yes.
For the phase 1. Thank you, David.
Yes, good morning, Mayor, CEO, councillors and members of the executive. So in terms of the time frame, we've just completed stage 1 of the project, which is the community engagements in all 15 divisions. That was completed last month. Now this is the analysis stage, and we will have a draft report ready by the end of this month, with a final report expected to be completed by August, end of August. We have the project steering group meeting scheduled on the 21st of July. So there is Deputy Mayor Wasimo on that committee, as well as Councillor Stephen, Councillor Mosby, as well as Ella Chris. We're also extended an invitation to members of the Economic Growth Advisory Committee, Councillor Ella Sama and also Councillor Manas. So that will be an opportunity to review what we have at this point, and that is a draft dashboard for each community, as well as we have an analysis of the surveys. So just on the surveys, we received 327 surveys. That was a really strong result. That represented 7.9% of the TSIRC population. And we really wanting to extend our thanks and appreciation to all of the communities for their support and coordination of those community engagements and also the surveys. So that's to each and every councillor, each division's administration teams that supported the community engagements. Overall, extremely successful, and yeah, they were very active and forthcoming in providing information. Councillor Stephen, would you like me to add any other areas or points?
I think just the next step what we're proposing now.
Yep, so the next step will be, I guess, to send out the draft to the project steering group. And also we'll be meeting with the TSIRC economic development team to get their feedback on the draft. And then the actual next step in the overall scheme of things of the development of the long-term strategic action plan is that we've submitted funding for TSIRC for phase 2. And so we'll wait until we get a result. But the intention is to move on to developing the strategic action plan. We'll have the foundational evidence base. We'll move forward to discussing the themes via roundtables with all levels of government and align investment with the themes and priorities identified. But that will be a process that will have to unfold over time.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Thank you, David. And I do want to thank you and John for the great work that you've done, and we're looking forward to the draft report once it's completed. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen. Thank you.
Yes, so we'll now move on to agenda item 6, corporate services. Thank you.
Through the Chair, I have 2 reports on today's agenda. The first one is an update on a policy. It's the fraud and corruption prevention policy. It has been reviewed internally by a number of departments, and it's purely an update and making it clearer what it is actually about. There is obviously further work to be done with the audit committee, but we have taken out those things that are actually duplicated in the policy and procedure and are procedural and operational. The report actually states that it will be provided to the Audit and Risk Committee meeting in August. However, that is an error. It will be provided to the Audit and Risk Committee in September, and then after that it will come back to Council for adoption. I take it as read. There is the new proposed new fraud and corruption prevention policy attached, and we also attached a full version of the track change policy from the previous policy. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? SARG members, executive? Thank you. I'll invite Susan to read the officer's recommendation.
Through the Chair, the recommendation reads that the SARG reviews the updated fraud and corruption prevention policy and refers the updated fraud and corruption prevention policy to the Council's Audit and Risk Committee for review and then to Council for adoption.
Thank you. I'll submit the officer's recommendation for SARG endorsement and call for a move and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Wassamo, second. Councillor Anibal. We haven't got a quorum. Sorry, we don't have a quorum at the moment, so the paper can't be passed until we have a quorum. we can establish we've got a quorum. There's only 3 councillors and a quorum of SARG is 4.
Calling in from out the front.
Yeah, we'll take a 5 minutes break and then we'll come back and reconvene. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Welcome back. We'll resume our meeting. We're in corporate service, and I'll invite Susan to read the officer's recommendation.
Through the chair, Councillor Stephen was absent. Do you have any questions about the report on the fraud and corruption prevention policy?
I'm going to ask you to go through the report again. No.
The officer recommendation reads that SARG reviews the updated fraud and corruption prevention policy and refers the updated policy to the Council's Audit and Risk Committee for review and to Council for adoption. While Councillor Stephen was out of the meeting, Councillor Wassamo supported this recommendation and Councillor Anwar seconded it.
All in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Motion carried. We'll move on to the next page.
Through the chair, this is one of the most exciting reports I have presented to SARG. This was a requirement that came out of a full council meeting that we provide an outcome report for the last corporate plan that expired on the 30th of June. That's corporate plan 2020 to 2025. We have liaised with everybody within the organisation to give you an outcome report around the 12 outcome areas. This report will go to the July Mobiac meeting for the full council to consider. We just thought that we bring it to your attention before we go to the council meeting. We have assessed 64 key deliverables in that corporate plan as successfully achieved, and 42 deliverables not achieved, but we have given explanations of why they were not achieved, and mostly it was either shift in priorities, funding limitations, because some areas depend heavily on external funding, and also staffing constraints. It is really pleasing to see so many key deliverables having been delivered despite challenges like COVID, 2.5 years of COVID during this corporate plan. We had 2 council elections, we had a number of staff turnovers obviously as well. So this is a very good outcome in my opinion. You will see we have strong outcomes. We have sort of graded them, moderate outcomes and low outcomes. And we have attached a detailed report with every outcome and every key priority that was listed in that corporate plan, with some explanation and some comments for some. I would hope you have some questions on this report.
Thank you. SARG members, any questions, comments? You said 62 achieved, 42 not achieved or not delivered due to external funding. 64. And from the 42 that's not either delivered or achieved, what of that when continued in the current corporate plan that was transferred or translated over?
So I would actually have to go back on that, but I will have that information by the council meeting.
Okay, that would be good. I think as part of the information report, see if we can include the feedback of this report back into the Mayor's community information session, but also extract it for our councillors so that when they engage with their partners in the community, they look and speak, well, this is what we plan to do. We came in this term and this is what we were able to support and achieve. That would be good. But thanks very much. Suzanne and the whole team for progressing this. We, in fact, probably have most of you that were part of the initial part, or when the plan was put in place and expired a month or two ago. And this is a reflection of the leadership's commitment and determination. At least we're seen to be doing things. And we can demonstrate that to our capability partners. Given the circumstances we're in, we were able to deliver these key milestones and targets. Are there any further questions or comments? I'll invite Suzanne to read the officer's recommendation.
Through the chair, thank you. And I would like to reiterate this was a whole organisation exercise in getting this information together. The recommendation is that SARG notes the corporate plan 2020 to 2025 outcomes report.
BSO. Do you need a move and second? Thank you. So SARG notes this report. Thank you. I think we've got Miss here online. Okay, so she's trying to dial you now. Okay, we're waiting for you. Okay, talk soon. Over. We've got 2 deputations, but unfortunately we can't establish contact with Ilda Mosby, who was going to talk to us about climate systems, particularly around the Indigenous voices in national and international climate decisions. Auntie Ilda's part of First Nations, Indigenous voices, that's working with some branch of the Q and the Commonwealth in formulating policy papers for Indigenous voices. So that was one of our deputations today, but unfortunately we were unable to establish contact with her. But I will welcome our sister council, Mayor Elsie Syria, who will be addressing SARG today to we were talking about how do we progress the upcoming event in the region, particularly around the Winds of Zena Cultural Festival. Thank you, Ms. Syria, for your valuable time. Welcome and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Mosby. Thank you, team, for having me. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge my Heavenly Father for the brand new day of life and gift of life of what we're able to do. Also paying respect to the traditional owners of place where I'm speaking from, the Karen Nation. Pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging, and also in respect to all other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers and sisters that are joining us in this meeting, and also our non-Indigenous brothers and sisters, acknowledging where you posted up there, where Gimui country there, and pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging. Thank you so much for having me join this meeting, Yablo Yukla, and just to give you an update, I guess, of the Winds of Zenat. As we know that currently we're obviously in transition with our CEO, so we do have an interim CEO that we've appointed who is currently with us at the moment, but won't commence his role in office until Wednesday, the 16th of July. His name's Mark Crowley. So I will share once like a media release on Mark, so everyone is aware. So the Winds of Zenith Culture Festival, just a little bit of history behind that, is a biannual event, and council have already locked in their dates for 2027 and 2029. But I guess we're just at a crucial time now with it just being around the corner from us. And I think it's really important of how we could engage in collaboration with both of our sister council and having council involved in this, because I'm not sure in the past of what's happened in the past when delivering this engagement or this event. But I guess I feel that we should be all collaborating and working together. So previous I know that our committee or council group of elder advisory committee has traveled to the islands to speak to individuals, to speak to stakeholders, to speak to community dance teams. And I guess I've just asked the team here that because timing is so short, how we could work with TSIRC in delivering that community engagement of what them have been doing in the past. So the Cultural Festival set, it is going to happen. Not sure if people are aware of the dates there of the festival, which is the 16th to the 19th of September. And I note that the 19th of September is Torres Strait Council show day, but we've checked the calendar. It's also a public or bank holiday for TSIRC as well. So the timing is good for us, I guess, to have more people involved in this. So Mayor Mosby, I guess we're calling out for support now from UPLA and councillors on ground in doing our community engagement. So I've just spoken to the Director of Corporate Services, Yablo Mipla, and they're currently doing an handover process with the CEO, with our CEO. So she said that she would be able to get back to me or us next Tuesday or Wednesday. But I wanted to ask if council, your council, could be on standby once we got the plan of what we can do with working with your councillors on delivering the message there for the festival for us.
Yep, thank you. Any comments, questions?
Through the chair, Mayor Syriat, I know that Torres Shire staff has been working very closely with TSIRC staff through Executive Director Dawson, Sailor Committee, Community Services Department. So I know that they've been in contact with the events manager, Bobipla, Larissa Barney. So they're providing that support. Well, Dawson, if you want to comment.
Yes, so through the chair, so as the deputy mentioned, there has been some conversations already, just pre-planning, and in terms of getting word out for the divisions, the communities. So Larissa, who oversees our events and engagements, she has provided a list, an updated list of the stakeholders, the dance teams as well, to Torres Shire, but just for awareness. But then she's also touched base with some of them dance teams already to let them know what's sort of upcoming and that there's more conversation to have, I guess. Well, that's the initial part that we've done so far. In the last festival, Larissa was involved with that as well, and with TSIRC support. Our support was by way of coordinating, so pre the festival, coordinating everyone, help with their flights, supporting them with their flights, the dance teams, and also freighting things in, like the P containers and stuff that they were shipping into TI, coordinating accommodation as well with TI, and being the link between Torres Shire and for the outer island communities here, the dance teams. And then throughout the festival, being the key contact as well, she was working closely with David, I believe, and the CEO there, Galasa, as well, for get message out for the teams if there was any changes and things like that.
Okay. So thank you so much for that update, Dawson, and also Deputy Mayor Smother. So Mayor Mosby, well, so the clarification there is the festival is happening and we're going ahead. So thank you.
Yes, so I think one of the things we're not too sure whether the financial support, like the other years, will be provided to the different islands from the dance team, especially where we are financially, the council, because you can imagine the hit that council will get if we know that external funding support to make it possible for those dance teams from the outer islands to attend that on TI, but also the big chunk of that is around that accommodation aspect. So if we can try and I don't know how soon can we confirm whether or not there's funding available, or it's left entirely for them dance teams to look for funding to attend.
Thank you, Mayor Mosby. I think Dawson would be able to correct me on that the operational stuff, I think, is all looked after in that sense of I don't think council has ever asked the community to pay for their dancing to come in. It's part of the funding, and I won't be able to obviously let no one until next week once they've confirmed all of that stuff. But council pick up all the costs is what I know of from the. Is that correct, Dawson?
Through funding, external funding that we've covered in previous festivals, yeah. So, but that's still in progress as well. So you might be more across that once you get the confirmation. We've also received a letter from CEO there, Torres Shire, for some support. I think that would help the application, I believe. Wow. And what scope we have to support.
Thank you. And I just got an email too from Time and Tide, who is the ferry service here that offered their service. Obviously, costing involved, but I've sent that through to our Director of Corporate Services that they'd be able to do charters for the nearby islands. So that's the New Western, which is obviously New South Wales. So they'd be able to run out there, and I think the capacity they're able to pick up maybe about 60 to 30 people and be able to take them to come inside. So that's definitely helping us in that space there.
Yes, so thank you very much. I think it's a great initiative to cement the partnership and relationship between our councils, particularly drawing the attention to our region, but also as per our offline conversations about looking at the future of the festival and moving it around to different parts of the region to give more economic benefit and advantage, but exposure as well of the authenticity of the region's cultural heritage and history. But given time is of essence now, our focus is to try and maintain the current status, but also in the back of our minds and our leadership vision and planning, there has been appetite within TSIRC leadership for such events to occur in our footprint as well, to raise that profile, but exposure as well to visitors and government into the region. But as so, we look forward and we'll continue to have this ongoing dialogue, and I'm really appreciative of the collaboration from our CEOs to our executive directors. We're trying to make this work. Wow. Biggest so.
Well, okay, so thank you everyone, and keep up the good work. Happy NATO.
Thank you. We'll move into closed business. 10:1. Sorry, we'll move into closed business, And for the reason for this matter is to discuss in closed business. This matter contains the information of negotiation relating to a commercial matter involving a local government for which a public decision will be likely to prejudice the interest of the local government. I could submit that recommendation and call for a mover and a seconder for SARG to move into closed business. Moved by Councillor Annabelle, second. Councillor Wassamo, all councillors in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion carried. We're now in closed business to discuss this matter. Thank you.
So, Mayor, so I'm assuming we're talking 10.1?